Welcome all to our Mission Control Breakfast Briefing. Today's event is a virtual event on building a better board, and we will be hearing from one of our members, Claudia Zeldin, in a moment. Let me just tell everybody a little bit about Mission Control in case you're not familiar. We're an organization that was founded in 2018. We're New York City based, and we're a think tank comprised of seasoned business leaders who are deeply grounded and passionate about strengthening the nonprofit sector here in New York and the region. We've been working with leaders of nonprofits, each of us in our own individual capacity and together as a group. Since then, once the pandemic started, we moved our program to a virtual platform, and that's enabled more people to participate, as well as it's enabled us to record our presentations and share them for later use on our website. We share our knowledge via master classes. We facilitate collaborative partnerships. We've got resources, including guest speakers who join us for some of our presentations. And we also host exchanges among leaders in the nonprofit community, creating a space for them to share their ideas and insights. We firmly believe that the more nonprofit leaders are informed and inspired by professionals in the space and by each other, they're able to better fulfill their missions and have an increased ability to have a positive impact on their sector and their part of the community. Our members are currently 6 individuals, all of us part of the founding group. Some of us are here today. We have Jeff Ledette, who is president and creative director of Letter 7 Brands. He's one of our co-chairs and co-founders. We have Bobby Garantano. Sorry, Bobby, I've done that to you again. He is got a new company, so his details are off here. He is the founder. Bobby, what is the name of your company again? I'm terribly sorry.
It's Recovery Guardian.
Recovery Guardian, which is an organization that helps nonprofits and other businesses recover money that they're owed by different what is it? It's in different insurance programs that they already have access to. We have Neil Fleischman, who is the regional director of Payday. He's also the board chair of the Queens Botanical Garden. We have Heidi Sidley, who is principal and managing director of Stone Street Equity. And she assists nonprofits with their benefits programs, their retirement benefits programs. Myself, I'm Josh Nathan, and I'll be your introducer today. And I'm a principal at the law firm of Joshua C. Nathan, PC, where about half to 70% of our clients are in the nonprofit sector. Today's speaker is Claudia Zeldin. She's a partner with Growth for Good, and Claudia will be giving today's presentation on building a better board. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Claudia, and I hope you all enjoy today's event.
Hello, good morning, everybody. I'm Claudia Zeldin. Today you're joining us. Thank you for waking up early. I know breakfast briefs sometimes are hard to make, so thank you for making the time. I'm going to tell you a bit about myself. I am a partner at Growth for Good. We are a small nonprofit consulting firm that provides strategic planning, fundraising, event management, and a lot of fundraising for nonprofits so that you can do the good work that your mission fuels. And everything we do is from a capacity building approach. These are just some of our clients that I thought I'd share. So today we're going to be talking about building a better board. And one of the things I want to really focus on is diversity of talents, thoughts, skills, religion, race, sexuality, just so that your board is rich and robust, representing the communities that you serve. Also, I'm going to outline a 7-step process for how to recruit. And this is after years of experience working with many, many boards. So I hope it is helpful to you. And then I added this because a lot of people say to me, oh, if I'm going to create a board job description, what should be in it? And how do I say things about how much money we want a board member to give and get? So I've gone into that with a little bit more specificity. So just first things first, I love Jim Collins' Good to Great, getting the right people on the bus. So the main point is that you're recruiting the right people to think strategically for your organization, the right people to, lead your organization into the next 3 to 5 years. And once you have the right people who are super passionate about your cause, then you can decide where to drive it. When we think about recruiting effective board members, you have to think about your governance team, your nominating team. And I will say that there are many nonprofits that are very small and you think, oh, I don't have a committee to do this. How am I going to get it done all by myself? Or maybe you don't, maybe the whole board wants to be involved. Either way, my recommendation is to come up with a posse. You can't do it alone, but I love a team of 4. Different perspectives, different, when you interview a candidate, you're seeing them from a different vantage point. And so I would really recommend that you develop a governance team to help you focus on this. And that committee, whether you call it governance or nominating in your nonprofit, the idea is that this team, this posse, is establishing criteria, that you're deciding what the roles and responsibilities are. You're going to go out there and find and then recommend new members to the bigger board. You're going to recommend how they are engaged, what committees they're appointed to, how they're oriented, who they're oriented by. You're going to be the committee that stays in touch to make sure that board member is being engaged. You're going to also review the performance of them and of existing members. So my theory is that when a new board member comes on, if they are truly put into a leadership role, they will be the most engaged board members. They will not need years and years of engagement. I'm sorry, Josh, could you please make sure that when folks are in the waiting room that they're let in? So first things first, I think that every board should do an assessment and really think about where they have gaps and overlaps, strengths and weaknesses. And when I mean that, I mean about composition and structure, the who on your board. Are you too small? Are you too big? Should the terms be shorter? Should the terms, should you have renewable terms? What diversity are you missing? What committees are going to be rotating off? How do you need to think about succession of your executive committee? Are they engaged and hosting meetings actively? What would they need in order to be productive committees? Then you have to think about the work, the what of the board responsibilities. Should they be doing more fundraising? Do you need more financial oversight and accountability? Do you need an ad hoc strategic planning committee? Are you going to be doing some kind of vision or mission reimagining in the next 3 to 5 years? Like, what kind of person do you need? And then thinking about the culture and the dynamics of your board, how you all get along. And I would say that this is one other area that some board members, when you're recruiting, could actually help you with development. The board dynamics. CEO relations, maybe somebody has, no one has HR and the ED hasn't been reviewed in a long time, or they, having someone who's a data wonk and a tech wonk could really help you with your own self-assessment. So thinking outside the box of the who, what, and how you need on your board. We've created this assessment to look further. But one thing I wanted to say is that some boards are still, I know that some of the folks on this call have smaller organizations, and I would say they're follow the leader boards. They're family, friends, of the founder versus a governing board, which is, more of, a following, I'm sorry, is more of a leading board, and has come from the outside world to support your organization. When you think about a team matrix, I know this is small on your screens, but I can just kind of define what this is, and I'm happy to share it with you when we do in-person webinars, workshops. This would be a handout, but this is a profile matrix, so that on the left-hand side, it's different skills. So this is academics, business, finance, fundraising, health, wellness, marketing, fiscal plant, PR, marketing, real estate, strategic planning, technology. And if you imagine, the columns on the right are where you put your board members' names, and you'd actually survey them so that you're learning the skills that you have. And in many cases, you may think someone's in real estate and that's all they know, but they could be doing talent management in real estate, or they could be doing financing in real estate, or working with banks. So they might actually fill in their experience differently than you would have assessed them had you been doing this without their help. The other side of it is also looking at their characteristics. Are they young? Are they old? Are they male, female, gender non-binary? Are they different races? Muslim, Buddhist, Hispanic, you name it. What kind of culture do they bring to the organization? And then for some organizations, you might want to think about geographic considerations. If you're in the Bronx, do you want someone from the Bronx? If you are expanding into Staten Island, should you be looking for people on Staten Island? If you serve children, do you want parents and grandparents? I often say that you should think about sensitivity and not just lived experience. I know the foundations want to know that you have, a diverse board, and that you have BIPOC leaders, volunteering for you, and they track that. And that's lived experience. But when you're thinking about recruiting, also folks with sensitivity can be really important. I can't reiterate enough that one of my best board members that I worked with at a housing organization, he came to the organization because his brother had struggled with bipolar and had lived in their shelters for many years. And it was a life changer for him and his family. And he was forever appreciative and knew firsthand the work that we did. So that brought a lot of sensitivity that we couldn't get from any other board members. So again, looking at gaps and overlaps, really thinking about what you're going to need for the next 5 years. This says 5 to 10 years. Maybe if you know where you're going that far in the future, that's great. But for instance, if you're doing a lot of capital projects, you might want folks with building and real estate and financing experience. If you are going to be doing a program expansion, you might want somebody who has a lot of planning and business development experience. If you foresee that you're going to grow quickly, someone with human resources experience. I'm always a big fan of finding folks with public relations and fundraising on your board. So that's always an area that can be grown. I'm going to just stop here for a second because I think that I'm going really quickly, but I want to just stop and also say there's some critical factors. The first thing is that you really have to think about the role that you play in culture and dynamics. So when you're recruiting, I can't say it enough, be very clear that you're building a pipeline of strong future leaders to your organization. Because if someone brings in their friend and they're in finance, but you already have 3 people in finance on your board, the last thing you want is for someone to feel rejected. You also want to make sure that you're engaging everyone in the approval process. So just making sure that any candidates know that there is a process and that you are not able to approve them immediately, that there's a dedicated, thoughtful process. There's a collective commitment needs to be had for every new member joining the board. I would also say that a lot of people come with new candidates, people who have never been on a board before. I really believe that prior board experience is the best predictor of a person's ability to effectively lead. So even if they've been on a junior board, even if they've been on a campaign committee of a board, an ad hoc planning committee of a board is great. But someone who's never gone through any kind of board training or has any experience often are the hardest board members to engage. A lot of people ask me this, how big should my board be? I'm often a fan of larger boards. I like 20, 25 plus, because I really feel like you can get to that diverse thought and culture and perspective, but it also enables your board to work very successfully with a committee structure that is active, that is meeting between board meetings. And I'm going to just ask everyone to get a little involved and to participate in the chat. I want everyone to think about what the board members and donors have to have. And we call it the ABCs of giving or the ABCs of philanthropy. And I'm going to play a little game and see if you guys are really up, if you've really had your coffee this morning. So if you can tell me what you think the A, the B, and the C are. For some of you, maybe you've been to some of my board retreats and you know these, you can go ahead and have some fun, put it in the chat. The A, B, and C of giving. Anyone? Ambassador, oh, I like that, Carol. Yeah, they should be, everyone should be an ambassador. You're absolutely right. Connector, bingo, Erica. Okay, you get one, and we've got 1 out of 3. Ambassador's good, but it wasn't what I was thinking of, Carol. Anybody else? Ideas? Suggestions? Ask. Yes, the ability to ask. You absolutely want your board members to ask, be a connector, an ambassador, but a little longer word. I might have to give these up. Anyone else want to try one more time? Okay, well, I'll give you a hint. I'm going to say that every single person who you think of for your board and is a donor should have the ability to give. They have to have the affluence and ability to give personally, to not just get, to really give, and to give a substantial gift that means something to them. So the ability to give. But wealthy people just aren't out there dying to give money to nonprofits. They have to believe in your organization. They have to know what you do, and they have to commit to your mission. And the third is connector. They have to be willing to, they have to have a connection. They have to have a connection to somebody in your organization, a personal connection to your cause, but they have to have the ability, the belief, and the connection to give. So, when I say that, you know, yeah, Bill Gates would be a great candidate. You know, we really do want his money and we'd love him to be on our board. Well, does anybody have a relationship with him? Does anyone have his email, cell number, or a connection to someone on his staff? Because without that connection, they're not going to be, you'll have a hard time getting them to commit, and they won't be great fundraisers. So think about that. So next, board structure. I want you to think about kind of taking a moment and thinking about if you have all your ducks in a row and if you're really ready to supercharge your board to 20, 25 people. And in doing that, I would say that you should definitely have manuals with bylaws. One of the things that I love is when a board member who's a prospect joins the board as a member of a committee. They can come onto a committee, not as a board member, but as an outside member, and participate on ad hoc, either on audit or marketing or fundraising committee with the gala. Let's see if they play nice in the sandbox, and not always. Some nonprofits, when you look very closely at your bylaws, might find that only board members can serve on a committee. So look at that. Do you have a committee structure that can immediately engage somebody new? Are the roles and responsibilities of your board members clearly outlined? Some, but not all, like a commitment agreement that is very clear that they're going to attend meetings, that they're going to serve on 1 or 2 committees, that they are going to give above and beyond to attend a gala or 1 or 2 events a year, that they will bring 1 or 2 people for site visits. Each one of the different commitments, each board wants something different, but that's what I mean by that. And then make sure that you have reporting in place to track give-gets if you're going to require that, or site visits or attendance at meetings. Make sure that you have the reporting structures in place. I love using an engagement plan. I'm less of a report card person, but lots of boards do report cards. So having some mechanism to show engagement and how a board member compares to other board members, or can have a personally motivating plan to increase their participation and commitment. A board survey tool, Board Source, is a great resource. I love their board self-assessment tools, but you should be in the practice of doing that at least every other year. Now, once you have all your ducks in a row and you are ready, I will just say that a solid structure doesn't always guarantee a high functioning board. I really feel strongly that boards that work at the highest levels are not fiduciary and not even strategic, but they're generative. By that, I mean, this is the sources here, Chait, Ryan, and Taylor. Great resource book if you haven't read it, but they say that fiduciary is pretty much, I show up for meetings and I approve the minutes and I, participate in any major things, but it's pretty much a rubber chicken board. Strategic, you might actually be reviewing your ED, you might be, serving on 1 committee, and you're slightly engaged. And I would say that's where most boards are. A generative is where some of the best boards I've ever worked with are operating in this generative mode, where you've got people who are highly successful in their work every day. They have great skills and experience that they could bring to your organization and professional connections, but they haven't been tapped. They haven't been asked to solve the big problems of your organization. The more you tap into their passions, their abilities, the better off you'll be. And if you can engage them in some of that problem solving, you'll have really engaged board members. The next thing is just about setting expectations, and I'm going to get into the board job description in greater detail, but this is where, when you're recruiting, you have a document that says what the roles and responsibilities are. And it really makes people want to perform higher because they know the bar that's been set, and they know that they are sometimes not reaching it, so then they work harder. So really talking about setting goals, promoting, making sure that they have everything they need to be that ambassador. They can really advocate for the organization and promote it and talk about its mission well. Giving that kind of background during the recruitment stage will serve you for many years to come. I think that when you think about what you're looking for, I'd be very clear that it's the governance committee's role and responsibility to set this criteria, but obviously they should have a real commitment and interest in your work. They should have the ability to influence others. You don't want somebody who's here to serve themselves or get something out of it professionally. They should have the willingness to give personally at a significant level. no one should be put on your board who isn't interested in fundraising. I know a lot of people say, oh, well, they gave a check for 25,000. He doesn't have to do anything else. I really disagree. I think that ambassador role, that advocate role is super important. And even if you aren't fundraising, asking people for money, you should be talking about the organization from the heart. Again, past board experience is really essential, looking for diversity, and really, I love the board members who are super enthusiastic about their careers and their jobs outside of the organization and are willing to share their background and skills. Again, moving pretty quickly, I'm going to say that there are 7 steps to board recruitment. And I would really, you can read them here, but I'm going to take you through each one really quickly. I think it's super important to have a board job description, to share it with stakeholders, to post it outside of your organization, do targeted outreach, set up those meetings, and have a real vetting process. And then onboard really effectively, engaging on committees and more. So first, we have a checklist that we've created, Growth for Good has created, that is how to create a board job description. I'd be happy to share that with you if you want to put your email in the chat. Your name and email would be great, and I'll make sure that you get that after this. I apologize. Sometimes when you go from workshop to webinar, the handouts don't get shared. So, but a program summary is really important. Stats on the audiences that you serve. Make them able to really know that your organization is something where they want to be, and it feels very aligned to their own personal mission and priorities. If you have participation requirements, list them. Do not underestimate the role. The biggest mistake is for someone to say, oh, it's really just 4 meetings a year, when it really isn't and shouldn't be. And obviously include the contact information. I love using the contact information for your governance committee, because I think that recruiting is the board's job, and the board should run it, lead it. The second is share with stakeholders. A lot of people say, oh, I'm going to share this with my friends and family. That's great, but you really want to go outside of your regular network. You really want to recruit from sharing it with your vendors, sharing it with key supporters, people who wouldn't want to be on your board, but might know other nonprofits that have great boards, and they might serve on other boards where people are rotating off. You can share it with your local, partners in your community. Perhaps they have board members that are rotating off and want them to stay close to the fold. I love corporate volunteer networks. I'm a big fan of that. I often think you find lots of B companies that may not be the Amazons, the Googles, Facebooks of the world, but the secondaries that have, aren't hit up as much for money and are super interested in the causes that their employees volunteer and give to. Local business councils, and using public sites. I'm a big fan of using public sites like Board Assist. Here's a whole list. If you're looking for national, regional, junior boards, there are some board search services where you have to pay them a fee, but like the Corporate Giving Network is under $500. So if they place a board member with you, it's really just to cover, it was originally, I think, for mailings and stuff, but Board Assist does charge a quarter of the give get, but if you have a firm give get of 20,000, and the board members onboarded and provide that contribution, their personal contribution, not until they're onboarded and they make their contribution, the Board Assist is paid, and it's $2,500. I mean, in that case, it would be $5,000 for a $20,000 board member. And I will just say that some of these search services, even the free ones, have been very successful in finding candidates that are BIPOC for my clients. So if that's something of interest, I think that you should definitely consider that. Targeted outreach. You can do a share campaign with your board members, making sure that they're posting the position on LinkedIn, on Facebook, doing with great pride. I'm a board member. This is a volunteer position. If anyone else is interested, please forward on to others that care about, women and children in housing, or youth and education and youth development, whatever your passion is. So drafting that so that your board members can share. Again, host an open house, a fundraiser, an outreach event, inviting your board to come with one prospect. Even if those prospects don't become board members and they simply become donors, how great is that? There are presentations that you can give at corporations saying that you're recruiting folks to run a drive, but you're also looking for folks to help with your benefit committee, but you're also looking for board leadership. And so there's 3 ways to engage, and employees are welcome to consider all or any. Industry councils. I'm a big fan of alumni networks. So considering anyone who's on an that has a professional membership, or an association or civic committee, they're great places to reach out. Here again, I'm just going to say this is a really important part in the process where you have to stop and tell yourself again, and tell everyone that you're communicating with, that you are building a pipeline of talented volunteer leadership. But do not make a commitment until every candidate has been vetted, because what you might find is, here you are at your January board meeting and you've got 2 incredible people with HR experience, and that's exactly what you need on your board, and you have to choose between 2. So you do not want anyone being disappointed. Just make sure you're very clear with the vetting process. When you set up exploratory meetings, I have a list of questions that I'll share with you, but again, really research your prospect and have the staff meet with them. Try to be get them to meet with committees if there's a committee that you want them to be onboarded onto. Make sure that you're asking them questions, that you're open to their questions. And no matter what, if you ever get introduced to somebody who could be a board prospect or a donor prospect, please thank them and make sure that they're given to the staff to put onto the e-news list and cultivated as a donor regardless. Let them get all the e-newsletters, and to see if they engage, if they give, if they volunteer, if they want to be a part of your community. Here are just some questions. Again, if you put your email and name in the chat, if you want these resources, I'm happy to share them with you. Again, I really think this is a place where you stop and you think about the people that you're interviewing and get to some of the kind of essential qualities that you want to see in somebody. If COVID has taught us anything, it's that we need people that have courage, that they have integrity. When push really came to shove and a lot of nonprofits had to tap their board for assistance through a very challenging, difficult time, having people that really believe in continuing to pay your employees a fair and livable wage, a household sustaining wage, and the courage to make changes, to downsize, to grow, to ask for more federal funding. Those are the types of folks that you really want on your bench. So when you have a vetting process, I just want to say that you want to make sure that you really keep everyone informed on where they are in the process. You want to make sure that you don't leave somebody hanging, that you stay in touch with them. If you are super interested in them, consider what information they might want or need in order to make their decision. Always share news, events, opportunities to volunteer. Like, just make sure that you're including them and not somehow lapsing for weeks on end without being in touch. Once you make the decision to onboard somebody, it's really important that you think in advance. What board meeting? How is that going to happen? Do we have a background, a binder to give to them? Is there somebody on the committee that they will be joining that can serve as a mentor? If not, who on a different committee or on the executive committee could mentor them? Think about how they get introduced to the staff, how they get introduced to each other. Are there opportunities for kind of just a meet and greet, a breakfast, a cocktail to welcome a new board member? Sometimes when you're really growing your board rapidly, there might be 2 or 3 board members that you're onboarding at any one meeting. So really making sure that there's a half hour before as a meet and greet, even if it's virtually. And then make sure that you monitor their progress. Make sure that they are, if they have questions that, before each meeting, do they go through the board book and or the board packet, and do they have any questions before you sit down and meet everybody? Just really think through how you're bringing them on with great care and concern and engagement. This is the last step, but just again, really making sure that there's an action plan for everyone. If possible, that they have a role in the meetings, that their committee make sure that they get the meeting reminders, all those little things that make somebody feel welcomed. A tour, so they get to know the staff, so they know when at a board meeting when people are talking about the leadership team, the staff leadership team, they can put a name with a face. Again, here are the 7 steps. The job description, sharing it, posting it, exploratory meetings, targeted outreach, a vetting process with strong questions that get to the character of the person, and then onboarding effectively. If you have any questions, I know I'm moving very quickly, but I want to leave some time for Q&A, and I still want to go into some depth on the board job description. But if you have any questions at this point, please put them in the chat. We're going to have a couple minutes at the end, and I'd be happy to address any concerns or, even suggestions that you have.
Are the painters here?
So this is maybe the most asked question I get. If I'm doing a board job description, how do I get to the fact that we want every single board member to give, making this up, $15,000 a year? And I always say that there's many ways to do it. And here are 3 different kind of snippets of language that I like, that I could share with you, or just I think that you should think about. No matter what, there has to be 100% board giving policy. If someone's company is going to sponsor them and pay their $10,000 to $15,000 give get, that doesn't mean they're off the hook. No matter what, they should be giving. Even if you have somebody who's an alum or represents the families in your community, they should give something, $20, something to your organization every year. A board member who I like this one. Board members agree to work toward giving and getting a minimum annual goal of $15,000 in financial support. This can be in the form of a personal gift, or purchasing or securing benefit tickets. This is for obviously an organization that has a fundraiser every year, and is looking for the board members to give substantially above and beyond their commitment. Board members consider the organization a philanthropic priority and make annual gifts that reflect that priority. By personally contributing to the board, board members recognize this responsibility and demonstrate the commitment to the organization's sustainability and growth. They have to be signing on, understanding that this is going to be their priority. That if they serve on multiple boards and they can't be present, or if they think that that government funds keep your organization alive, and that they don't have to give, then they're really not the right person. So the job description having this language is pretty essential. The other thing is, you've done this assessment, you know the skills and the diversity that you seek. So I would be really explicit about that. Here are some language and snippets that I like. I love that you're ABC organization is actively developing a pipeline of capable and passionate prospects for a high-performing, all-volunteer board of directors. So it's very clear, this is not a paid board. This is highly engaging, demanding. The organization is seeking to add board members who can provide the knowledge and diversity of various perspectives. Some organizations would even say that they have a lived experience with the communities that they serve. You can go deeper into that depending on what you're looking for. I like this because here, this organization, this kind of sample of a corporate community and engagement executive with a keen interest in workforce development and engaging employees in philanthropy. Business and economic development executives with knowledge of real estate building, community development, and facilities management. That's great if you're doing a capital campaign. Media and entertainment industry professionals with skills in marketing communications. If you're doing a rebrand, if you're going to do an advocacy push, if you're going to start hosting events in the public that raise money or big campaigns, that experience is amazing. And I always say past board experience is preferred. We're not saying it's required, but always preferred. Some people are attracted to boards that are highly functioning and like to be on boards where they know that they're going to be with other folks that are experienced. So again, the selection process, I know this sign isn't very nice, but I think it's still funny. Everyone seems normal until you get to know them. You know, sometimes you're on board a board member too quickly and then you're like, oh God, now that we've onboarded them, they're so high maintenance, or they're so difficult, or you kind of are sorry, and then you worry that you've got 3-year terms and 3-year renewals. And so just really stop here, think about the ABCs, their ability, belief, and connection to the organization. Make sure you're not going to reject somebody, be very discreet. Think about if there's experiences and expertise is really a good match. Again, diversity of background, everyone's really focused on that, but I love thought leadership. I love an entrepreneur. I love a corporate. I love someone who is a retired person who is super engaged and has time to commit to the process. So again, someone's availability is important, and their influence. Do they have connections in a network that can be tapped? Do they have generative thought and experience that can help the leadership of the organization solve tough problems? And are they in it for the right motivation? And just to remember that even though you have you may have 5-10 people in your prospect pipeline, not all board members are right for your board. Each board is super unique. So I'm just about at the end, and we can do Q&A, but I do want to just say that this is a time-consuming, year-round, ongoing process. So building that posse that's going to be your governance team is really important. Being honest with prospective board members to say, this is why folks are rotating off the board, or this is why we're challenged to find the right people, or why we haven't grown, or during COVID, this is what happened. Like, being really honest about your strengths and weaknesses will really lead you to success. There are a lot of folks out there that are builders, that love a good challenge, and love, kind of being an insider. So sharing thorns and roses, I think, is a really good practice. Again and again and again, I can't tell you enough that thanking and engaging everyone who shows interest. This is fundraising. So if anyone comes to you and says that they have enough to make your give get, but then doesn't join your board, don't let them just join another board. Let them become a great donor. And just to remember that relationship takes nurturing. So think about people on your nominating committee who can be that kind of nurturing face of your organization and advocate.